In this project, I'd like to take this giraffe and put it into this picture. I've already made a selection of this giraffe, so I could either drag or drop him into the other picture, or in this case, we'll do something a little different than we've been doing. I'm going to go under Edit, choose Copy, then click back on the picture that I'd like to put him in, go back to Edit, and choose Paste. And that accomplishes the same thing as drag and drop. It comes in on its own layer automatically, right over here. And I'm going to double click on the name, Layer 1, and give it a name. It's a good idea to name your layers as you go. Now what would really make this look realistic is if there were a shadow underneath the giraffe. So I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, yeah, we'll just go down to the bottom of the Layers panel, click on the FX button, and choose Drop Shadow, make our adjustments, and that's not working at all. So I'm going to cancel this, because a drop shadow isn't going to give us what we need here. We're going to need to make our own shadow, and we're going to use the giraffe to make the shadow. So here's how it works. I've got my giraffe layer selected, and I'm going to make a copy of this layer. So I'm going to go to the little menu button in the upper right hand corner of the Layers panel. Whoops. Click on it and choose Duplicate Layer. I'm going to call this Giraffe Shadow. So there's my giraffe shadow layer. And what we need to do is fill this giraffe with black, because we're going to use that to build the shadow. And in order to do that, we're going to need to protect the transparent pixels on this layer. Now, I'm going to turn off the view for these other two layers just so you can see this. You can see everything but the giraffe is transparent here. So I'm going to click right in here on the Lock Transparent Pixels button so that anything that's transparent right now will stay that way. Now, under the Edit menu, I'm going to go down and choose Fill. And we're going to fill this with black. This is a pop-up menu where you can choose. Click OK. Now I'll turn my other layers back on. Now, at this point, when you're working on this, don't be alarmed, because the black giraffe is going to be covering up the giraffe that's under it. But that's okay, we're going to fix it. What we need to do is get this shadow so it's laying down on the ground where the shadow's supposed to be. So to do that, we're going to turn off the Lock Transparent Pixels in the Layers panel and go up to the Edit menu at the top of the screen and choose Transform, Distort. I'm going to grab this corner up here and drag this down. Grab this other corner, put it down sort of where it should go. Get the little feet to line up as best I can. Alright. Well, you can see where this is heading. This is looking good already. So once I get this laying down the way I want it to, I'm going to press Enter on the keyboard to apply it. Next, over here in the Layers panel, I'm going to grab the thumbnail of the giraffe shadow and drag it down a notch so it's behind the giraffe. Then in the Filter menu, I'm going to go down to Blur and then choose Gaussian Blur. And we'll just drag this slider until it's got a sufficient amount of blurriness and click OK. So we're almost done. Next, we'll change the blending mode of our giraffe shadow layer from normal to multiply, and then adjust the opacity of the layer so that it looks realistic. Somewhere right around 70% looks good on mine. Alright, so far so good. So this is looking realistic. There's just one little final touch that'll make this nice. You can see if you look at the feet on this animal, it kind of looks like it's standing on top of the grass instead of in it. So we can fix that easily. I'm going to take my lasso tool and I'm just going to lasso around a section of grass here so that we can get some of that to cover up a little bit of his feet. Now the grass is on the background layer, so I'm going to click on the background layer to select it, and I need to make a copy of just this area so it's on its own layer. So there are a couple ways of doing it. The keyboard shortcut is Command or Control, depending on which platform you're on, J, or if you don't remember that, it's right under the Layer menu, under New, Layer via Copy. So let me show you what that just made. It made this little piece here, made a new layer by copying what was selected. So I'm going to double click on this layer's name and name it Grass so I can remember what's on it. And then in the Layers panel, move it up so it's above the giraffe. I'm going to take my magnifying glass tool and zoom in just a little bit so we can see this more clearly. And I'm just simply going to take the eraser tool and kind of erase some detail in here to make this look realistic. There, that looks a lot better. That actually looks like he's standing in the field. So I'm going to go over here to the hand tool and double click so we can see this whole thing. Well, this part here looks a little bit fake, so I'm going to take my eraser and just wipe that out. There, much nicer. Well, I think this looks very convincing.